In this video, let us explore the concept of keys in the relational model. We'll be understanding different types of keys, including primary keys, candidate keys, foreign keys, and superkeys. What are keys in a relational database? Keys are attributes or a set of attributes that uniquely identify records in a table. They establish relationships between tables, enforce data integrity constraints, and optimize database performance. For example, consider a student's table with columns such as student identification, name, department, and grade point average. Some sample records are provided in the table. Let's begin by understanding superkeys and candidate keys. A superkey is a set of attributes that can uniquely identify a tuple, which is a row in a relation which is a table. It may contain additional attributes that are not needed for unique identification. For example, student identification and name, or student identification, email, and phone would be superkeys. A candidate key is a minimal superkey, meaning it is a superkey with no redundant attributes. Removing any attribute from a candidate key would make it lose its uniqueness property. For example, student identification or email, if both can uniquely identify a student, would be candidate keys. Now let's discuss primary and foreign keys. A primary key is a chosen candidate key that uniquely identifies each record in a table. It must be unique for each record, cannot contain null values, should remain stable, meaning it should not change over time, and there should be only one primary key per table. For example, student identification in a student's table would be a primary key. A foreign key is an attribute, or a set of attributes, that refers to the primary key of another table. It creates relationships between tables, enforces referential integrity, can accept null values unless constrained, and a table can have multiple foreign keys. For example, department identification in a student's table, referencing the identification in a department's table, would be a foreign key. Let's illustrate the relationship between tables using keys. Consider a department's table with attributes such as department identification, department name, and building. Here, department identification is the primary key, which uniquely identifies each department. Now, consider a student's table with attributes such as student identification, name, department identification, and grade point average. Here, student identification is the primary key, and department identification is a foreign key that references the department's table. The arrow visually represents the relationship created by the foreign key, linking students to their respective departments. Next, let's explore composite keys and alternate keys. A composite key consists of two or more attributes that together uniquely identify a record. In this enrollments table, the combination of course identification, student identification, and semester forms a composite primary key. No single attribute alone can uniquely identify a record, but together they can. An alternate key is a candidate key that is not selected as the primary key. In this student's table, student identification is the primary key, but email and social security number are alternate keys. Each can uniquely identify a student, but only one is chosen as the primary key. Let's see how we can implement these keys using structured query language. The first block of code demonstrates creating tables with primary and foreign keys. We begin by creating a departments table with department identification as the primary key. Then, we create a students table with student identification as the primary key and department identification as a foreign key referencing the departments table. The second block of code demonstrates creating tables with composite keys. We create an enrollments table with course identification, student identification, and semester as a composite primary key, and student identification as a foreign key referencing the students table. Let's summarize what we have learned about keys in the relational model. A superkey is a set of attributes that can uniquely identify a record in a table and may contain redundant attributes. For example, student identification or student identification and name. A candidate key is a minimal superkey with no redundant attributes, and multiple candidate keys may exist in a table. For example, student identification or email. A primary key is the chosen candidate key that uniquely identifies each record, and there can be only one per table. It cannot be null. For example, student identification in a student's table. Lastly, a foreign key is an attribute or attributes that reference the primary key of another table and creates relationships between tables. For example, department identification in a student's table. Keys are fundamental to database design, ensuring data integrity and enabling efficient data retrieval. If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit CodeLucky.com for more such useful content.